Hello, and welcome to another episode of How the Hell Did I Get Here with Meg and Rachel. Thanks for joining us. Today, our guest is Cassa Grant. Hi, Cassa.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah. A little bit about Cassa before we get started. What you believe affects your actions and, ultimately, your outcome. And because your beliefs are shaped by the narratives you tell yourself, they must be genuine, regardless of how offbeat they seem. But even the most experienced leaders need help finding their true personal brand story. Seasoned brand and leadership coach and consultant Cassa Grant can find your authentic rhythm, regardless of how weird it may be.
Oh, well, we know weird.
Yeah, we know weird. We do weird. we are weird.
Right.
I'm in the right place. That's good.
Yes.
We're so glad.
Yes, you're in good company. One other interesting fact I have to share about Cassa before we get started. She is in New Zealand now, near Nelson, she just told us. And she got there by way of Montana, California, Antarctica, and then New Zealand.
Yeah, I know.
Which is
an impressive journey. I love it.
Yeah.
I like how you remembered all of them. That's great.
No, she's great at that stuff. I suck at that. I didn't even remember Nelson. I did remember the South Island, but I didn't remember.
There you go.
Yeah. So before we really ask you all the important questions, what the hell were you doing in Antarctica? That's what I want to know. Or is that your answer?
Yeah.
Is that your how the hell did I get here moment?
That is one of my how the hell did I get here moments.
Yes, well, tell us your story then with how the hell did I get here
We
moments.
will have follow-up questions afterwards
Yes.
if you don't get to it.
Well, I mean, my life has kind of been a series of breadcrumbs. I always knew I wanted to travel. That was like number one, almost obsessive, like I need to travel. So I was always kind of figuring out jobs to help me be a contractor, travel around the world, et cetera. So I actually became an adventure travel bus driver when I was 25. I was a teacher before that. And you'd be surprised at how similar it is to teach preschoolers and also lead a group of 20-something European backpackers. There's a lot of similarities. So
I bet I wouldn't be that surprised.
Yeah.
You know, it all came together. Like all of these skills that I'd been building as a preschool teacher have definitely been built on over the years. So I did that. Yeah. Oh yeah. Expectation setting, all these things. So I did that for a while. And one of my friends who was also a driver with that company, he had been trying to go to Antarctica for, I think, 12 years. He'd been applying and reapplying. It takes a long time if you don't know somebody down there, basically. And so he had finally gotten down there and was just always trying to get us to go, like, come on, guys, you'd love it. It's amazing. Da, da, da. And I was just like, what kind of an idiot would want to work in Antarctica? Like, don't they know about winter? Like, I know about winter. I grew up in rural Montana. Like, no thanks. But one winter I was home with my mom and it was 40 below. And we were sitting there and I see my friend on Facebook in a t-shirt at Ice Stock because we're at opposite seasons in the Southern Hemisphere, you know, so it was like midsummer for them. And I was like, yeah, I think I could probably handle summer in Antarctica. Maybe I should check that out. So when I finished grad school, I was kind of like, well, I don't have anything better to do. Why not do this for a season or two, you know, see what it's like, et cetera. And of course the adventure part of it. Right. So I originally went down there as a bus driver. So we have McMurdo Station is about 1,000 people. And the airfield that we land on is actually the permanent ice shelf. So it's about 15 miles from the station. So we need to transport people, goods, et cetera, back and forth from the town to the airfield. So I came down as a bus driver at first, and then I got into logistics management. So I managed parts for the operations department, basically, which was awesome. So I ended up spending like 3.5 years down there total over a course of the span of like 5 years. And so yeah, one of my how the hell did I get here moments was my first winter. I decided to winter in 2013, and I was part of the airfield operations always. So we were, loading up cargo, loading up people. And I just remember sitting out at the airfield, and it was like the last flight of the season. The sun sets in kind of late April. So it was starting to get it's like kind of twilighty for like a month on either side. It's not like full daylight, but it's not full dark either. And so it was kind of that light, and you watch that last C-17 take off and you're just going, I may have made a huge mistake.
I can't physically leave.
Yeah, you're looking at
how long? 6 months?
6 months, yeah, with no planes. So, I mean, we actually did end up getting a few planes that winter because of medevacs, but you're still just going, what the hell was I thinking? Like, how did I get here? Like, and it was a really great confronting moment for me, because it was really, it's like, well, and I've had this a couple of times in my life where it's like, well, okay, I'm here, put one foot in front of the other. There's no kind of, I'm going to sit around and feel sorry for myself, or, be mad or whatever. It's like, well, just do it now. Like, there's no choice around, should I or shouldn't I, or should I enjoy it or not? Like, you get to choose whether or not you enjoy it. So that is definitely one of my, how the hell did I get here moments.
Yep. I knew it. I knew that
Antarctica was in there. Antarctica was in there somewhere.
I mean, there are several others, don't get me wrong, but that's probably the most dramatic one. There's definitely many, shoveling snow moments going, what am I thinking? I have a master's degree, but it was amazing. And, the caliber of people down there are just so outstanding. You just get a lot of adventurers. You get a lot of people who are world travelers and have been for years and years. It's just, there's a lot, it used to be a Navy base, so there's a lot of still kind of military influence. And then of course we have the Air National Guard runs all the airplanes. So we have we sit in the galley, which is the big cafeteria, and you just never know the kinds of conversations you're going to have when you sit down at a galley table. It's like, you'll sit next to the plumber and he'll give you good stock advice, and you'll sit next to, any one of the drivers, and they'll tell you all about a lot of them drive in Alaska. So, it's just things like that where the mix is so interesting and varied. And I loved that part about the community. I mean, and that was actually what made it really hard to leave, was being a part of that community was so powerful. And I mean, you still are a part of it to a degree. It's just not in the same way. Right. So.
Yeah, I imagine that everybody, like the Antarctica veterans, is a pretty small pool in the world. So you probably do stay pretty tight with everybody.
Yeah, that's right. And even when people, so especially being in New Zealand, because we deploy from and redeploy from New Zealand, so people know that that I'm here. So even people I haven't met, like friends in common, will go, "Oh, go see Cassa."
Right.
So I'll still be meeting new Antarcticans throughout the year, which is pretty fantastic. I love that.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a friend who was a weather person down there for the Navy.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, for the Navy, yeah. So you guys probably know each other. We'll
Maybe.
talk about that later sometime. Yeah. But yeah, I've always been fascinated. It's such a alien, and there's just not such a small human footprint there. One of the last places. So it was a really fascinating place. I'm kind of jealous. I don't want to drive bus down there.
That's okay.
I could be a plumber pretty easy. I think there you
go.
On that job, a little training.
I can give you some names to talk to.
That's right. Hook a girl up.
Yeah.
Well,
not me. You get to live that hero story in my world. I have zero desire to be in Antarctica.
You're going to be on the beach with Mai Tai somewhere.
Yep. Humid.
That also,
that's my jam. Human and bug.
See, I'm not a bug. I don't like the bugs. So Antarctica is the place for me.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, and smells. You don't really smell much there either, because it's so cold and dry.
Yeah.
I mean, which is probably a good thing, because that station probably smells horrible. I mean, there's certain parts of the year where you're like, ooh.
Yeah.
But
not in the warmest part of the year. Yeah. Well, part of what we do on the show is to have you do our Helix assessment, which told us, to no great surprise, I suppose, that you are a little bit chaos tolerant, which means you like new challenges. You're always looking. And I think, frankly, what I find is you've exercised that muscle a lot in your life. So that probably makes you even more able to manage chaos and even love it, frankly. And then the self-driven part of you tells us that you don't really need permission to do the things that you want to do or interested in doing. So the Antarctica story feels like that supports sort of that, or reflects that. What are other examples, do you think, that sort of reflect that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the bus driving for sure, like having to be able to be in charge. And some of the things that I learned doing bus driving, I used as a manager, I use in coaching my clients today. And it's just thinking about how to, again, put one foot in front of the other, right? Like people you need that bigger strategy. You need that bigger direction. Like, we're going to New Orleans or whatever, right? But you also need to just be in the moment and not worry. So I used to be a chronic worrier. Like my family, I mean, I grew up on the ranch, and it was like, they're always going, okay, if that cow cuts that way, you're going to go this way. And then you're going to head over there. And it's like, everybody's always planning out every little detail of what could happen. And I had to really break myself of that habit, because particularly with a lot of these things, you just can't even imagine what will happen.
Right?
So
Yeah,
it's just,
good point.
it's pointless to try. I mean, there's planning that you can do in anticipation and intentions and that kind of thing. But when it comes to like what I was getting into, which was chronic worry, the traveling and being in Antarctica and being a bus driver and being a teacher too, it's like, it's given me that. I strongly believe that if you get into action, it helps build confidence, right? Like when you sit around and think about things too much, you just worry, right? So for me, it's just helped me get into that action and then go, okay, how can I respond to this, or what, and have the trust to respond. That's what I really lacked before, was like, I just didn't trust myself to respond. And now I do. So that makes a huge difference. And it also, not having to ask for permission, the point that you made about that, that trust gives you the ability to feel like, well, why would I ask for permission anyway? And why would I need to do that? So, having that trust in yourself just makes a big difference, I think. But I don't know that I would have that if I hadn't stretched that muscle so much. Like it definitely has taken practice, thought, work, etc., to be able to be confident. And this is I say business is my new adventure. Like, and you guys are probably certainly aware of this too, I'm sure. Like when you put yourself out there as a business owner or as a freelancer or whatever, a leader, you move up these levels of uncertainty and insecurity and perhaps worry. So that has given me that foundation to continue to do that professionally now. And I'm really grateful for that.
Yeah, we there's a saying, a new level, same devil, right? So you get better at what you're doing, and then but there's an urge to always be reaching. And so I think that's for sure a chaos tolerant feeling often, where we're like, well, we sort of get this, we've tackled those sort of fears or those demons a little bit. And so it's almost like, well, there's clearly, we can do the next thing now because we know this, right? So that is interesting how we're always reaching for something new to terrify the crap out of ourselves with. Yeah, it's almost like we don't know how to just. I remember one time Meg asked me, "Can we just like be happy with where we're at?" And I'm just like, I don't think it's in us, honestly.
No, and then we both laughed and
then we both laughed and drank some more.
Yeah,
and then
we're happy with the alcohol that's in us.
Yeah, right. For now.
Yeah, no, but I think that you bring up a really good point, because I do think that people, to be human is to grow. Like we are expansive. And so, it doesn't mean that you're just discontented with what you have. It just means that you're continuing to grow and learn, or you stagnate, like that. Cause that's the thing, like there's contentment and with the expectation and focus on expansion, or there's stagnation and worry and fear and those kinds of things. So I'd rather be on the expansion side.
Yes, well, that's because you're north of the line with us. That's the place we live in. For sure.
Yeah, there's some people who would rather just stay at the ranch and crisis plan
for the rest of their days.
Yeah, like most of my family, frankly.
Yeah.
Not that that's not useful there, clearly.
It is. Yeah.
And there's so many parts of how the world works and turns that we need people that are wired that way. It's not us.
It's not us.
Or you, it sounds like.
Well, and luckily, I thought I was wired that way until I started doing these like having that main urge to travel in particular. And then it started to help me see like, okay, I understand why that's a thing, but that's actually not how I'm wired. And that was really huge for me too, because but I also really feel grateful. Where I'm from, where I'm from in Broadus, it's like there's a lot of characters there too, and I really appreciate that, because growing up there were just so many wackadoodle people in this. It reminds me of Northern Exposure, that show from the 90s. Have you seen that?
Oh yeah.
It reminds me of Sicily, Alaska, because there's. I could go into many stories about that. I'm sure Shelley has, but it's it's a funny little town, and then getting out of there, you kind of go, oh man, we had some offbeat leaders there, which I really appreciate now. So
yeah, I know. I love it when you get to, you're in Manhattan or something, or, wherever, New Zealand or some crazy part of the world where you expect crazy things to happen. And then you tell stories from your own little tiny hometown and, Eastern Montana or Western South Dakota. And they're like, what? And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I got a good handle on crazy then.
Yeah, we're good.
Fine there.
Yeah.
Right.
Cool. Well, Cassa, before we go, tell us a little bit about your business, what you're doing now, and how our listeners can support you or reach out to you if they want to.
Yes. Okay. So, I mean, now I am coaching what I call offbeat leaders. So people who maybe have come to the leadership role without what they would consider to be a classic path or a typical path towards leadership. So, I mean, and this appeals to so many different people in so many different ways because, when you're 20, you don't necessarily go, oh, I'm going to be a leader. I mean, some people do, but other people don't. But then they kind of they follow the breadcrumbs like I did, and they find themselves in these leadership positions over and over because of aptitudes, because of circumstances, whatever. But they find that they do actually like it. There's still always this kind of feeling of, what am I not seeing? Because I didn't get classical training in leadership, or because I don't have an MBA, or whatever they want to think about, right? So I definitely specialize in helping people like that. So helping them with their vision, values, purpose, making sure that they're communicating clearly. It depends on each client, but helping them with figuring out how to be a better leader and what that really looks like for them. So I've just been loving it. And it's been really great. So if people want to reach out, I'm really active on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. So that would be a great place. And then my website, I have some free resources there. People are welcome to take storytelling, how to boost your message, and then also how to own your weird as a leader. So being more authentic, it's basically my take on being authentic as a leader. But I feel like particularly as Gen X and early millennials are getting more into these leadership roles, we're starting to see more and more how that authenticity actually shows up. Because, it's not oversharing. It's not, basically friending everyone on Facebook. It's more about who you really are as a person and how that affects your leadership style, and letting your people know that, basically.
Yeah, I like it because authentic's getting a little overused anyway. So I like the offbeat and the embrace your weird. I think kind of gets a little more to the core for most people.
And that's really more what it is for me too, right? Like I hope that that's more explicit, because I feel like, authentic can be very vague, and what does that really mean? So trying to help break that down.
I love it.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It was great to hear your story and about crazy people who actually enjoy living in Antarctica. Now I know where I can, if I ever have to get rid of Rachel, I'll send her on a ship and be like, dump her off in Antarctica.
Yeah. I'll say hi to Cass on the way by.
Yeah, there you go.
Sounds perfect.
All right. Well, until next time, you fellow leaders and listeners, lead powerfully.
Change the world.